All right, TJ Pod, episode 44.
Whoa.
And we're here. And
I'm glad we're here.
We're here, and I'm here with a good friend of mine. Last time we did this, actually, it's funny, we did a podcast, and I didn't capture the audio correctly. I didn't arm the microphones, and it was a huge mess. But luckily, I figured it out. We're here, and yeah, it's been great. Great to see you again, Gary. The arena guy is here.
Yeah, great to see you, TJ. It's amazing to see you again, and of course, I'm very happy for the way things are going for you. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you back, and I'm glad I got everything figured out. And the second time's a charm, I suppose. Cross our fingers, but we are recording, so I think we're good. But yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of do something that we've been planning on doing for a while, but I guess with the Academy Awards coming up next weekend, and we can talk a little bit about that. I figured, why not hold it out again and wait a little bit on the top 10 movies of 2021. I know we're already in 2022. I know we're already in the thick of it, but I figured we could go back since it's basically the end of the movie season.
Right.
It's technically, we could go and actually do this list, man, that we've been, we did 2020. That link will be around. So if you want to check out our list from last year and compare it to this year, it'll be interesting. But yeah, anyway, before we get into it, what would you say, like, your thoughts on 2021 as a movie year were compared to 2020?
And really what we're doing is the Academy Award year, right? Because it doesn't match up with the calendar years.
Right.
There's some that come out like in January or whatever. So, you know what? After 2020, which was pretty sparse.
Just a lot of like really depressing, like, cold movies that year. But I mean, there was definitely some good ones. There were some good ones on low budgets, but
yeah, but COVID kind of got in the way, and I feel like we're totally back. Mm-hmm. And I know there are a few movies that have come out this year that were maybe held back a little bit because of COVID. And it's really hard to put together this list this year because there were a lot of excellent movies.
Yeah,
there were a few disappointments too that maybe we can touch on as well. But I thought it was a really good movie year.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was a good bounce back year. I mean, it definitely wasn't as great as it was for a few years there in the 2010s. But I mean, it's starting to head in that direction. I just liked a lot. The thing I found was interesting about the pandemic and filmmaking is just how people have been forced to kind of think outside the box. And we've seen kind of a big comeback and good writing in movies because that's how you got to carry it. That's how, when films first started being made, you had to make them on cheap budgets, and your dialogue and your characters had to kind of carry the weight. And it felt like, throughout the 2010s, we kind of got lost in the spectacle of things a lot. And it was kind of great to get a year of a lot of grounded films, like that, a lot of great filmmakers having to make films on low budgets this year. Guys that usually could get the funding couldn't get the funding, and that was a lot of it. But with that, you had to really be creative and be a filmmaker again. So it was great. Instead of just having the studio, control the direction of the films, it was really interesting to kind of see almost this, bubbling throughout the independent scene as more, crowd-funded films and things like that get made, as opposed to like studio films. It's going to be interesting to see in this next decade how much that becomes a thing. Yeah.
So I thought it was a really good year. Not a whole lot of like, I don't know, the huge hits. A lot of the critically acclaimed hits anyway were not like big CGI films and stuff. There were some of those, but like you said, there are a lot of movies with good storylines and good writing that really carried them more than special effects.
Or a good concept.
There were plenty of those too, but it was. I felt like it was a pretty strong year.
Yeah, it was. So you want to get into this? Let's do our top 10. So here's how we're going to do it. He's going to start with his 10, and then I'm going to go to my 10, then 9, 8, 7, down, all the way down. But what will happen is if let's just say his number 8 is my number 1, then
it's possible.
Obviously we would wait until it comes up on my list at number 1 to talk about it. So we'll just hold off on it until later. But if it's not on my list at all, or it's, comparable enough to my list, if like he has like his 8 and mine's a 7 and it's the same movie, then you can kind of just talk about it there. But like, yeah, we'll kind of just work it out that way. And
And we'll make it clear that this is our personal list of movies that we have actually seen. So we're not making predictions here on movies we haven't seen, movies that we're supposed to like, this or that. And so there might be a few movies higher or lower on the list than maybe what some critics have or what some people predicting the Oscar winners to be. Right. So, I mean, you guys might roll your eyes at a few of mine, but...
yeah, it's your personal list, and that's exactly right. Yeah. That's a good disclaimer to have. Like, yeah, these are our lists. Excuse me, yours might be different. Yours might be different, and probably will be. But these are movies you've seen. Exactly. I'm not gonna put a movie I haven't seen on my list. Yeah, so I have to say up front before we get to my number 10 that there are some pretty high-profile Academy Award nominated movies that I did not see. One was Belfast, which I intended to see. Coda, Drive My Car, Don't Look Up, House of Gucci, did not see those movies. Okay. And so it was hard enough coming up with my top 10 without seeing those movies, and I wonder how my list would be different if I had. So that's my disclaimer originally. Okay. That's fair. We'll get into. I'll tell you if it's a movie I haven't seen. Or not.
So
what you want to get into it? Let's start the list.
Let me ask you real quick though before we do number 10.
Sorry.
Was there a movie or two that was on the top of your most disappointing list? I've got two that I
don't know. I'm sure there was a lot of disappointments in 2021.
Yeah, so, think about it. Well, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, tell me yours because I can't even think.
I have two. The Tender Bars one that I had great anticipation for because it got a lot of buzz and all that. I wasn't really crazy about that movie. And then what was the movie with Jared Leto and Denzel Washington at the beginning of the year?
Oh, The Little Things. Yeah, that was a disappointing movie. Yeah, that was bad.
That was like a couple hours they'll never get back.
That was
as they say. They kept building up and nothing ever happened. That was a big disappointment. So those were two that if I were to predict what might make my list before I saw them, I would have thought both of them were on that list. So think about it and chime in anytime. My number 10 is partially, one, I really liked it. Two, the critics hated it, but the public liked it a lot more. But it received so much criticism that the movie star will not talk about it now. And that is... I almost hesitate saying it because it's so unpopular to be on a list. It's not on anybody's list, but I'm going to say Dear Evan Hansen.
Have not seen it.
I saw it on Broadway, and I saw it when it came here to Columbus in the touring production. And Ben Platt is actually will be performing in concert in September at the Schottenstein Center here. And he was in the original production. He originated it. And so the criticism was not so much about the film, but the fact that he was too old to be a high schooler, which is true. But who else could play that role than him because he originated it and he is so associated with it. And all I could think of was Grease with 30-year-old John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John playing high school kids.
True.
And nobody made a big deal about that. So as my kind of little nod to protesting the negative criticism of this movie, Dear Evan Hansen made my number 10. I think it's a great Broadway musical. It translated to film very well. Yes, with Ben Platt, they tried to do a few things with his hairstyle and some of his mannerisms to make him seem a little bit younger, and that was a little corny. But overall, it was. I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It was emotional, and this is kind of my protest pick.
Okay. Yeah, I have not seen it. I'll put that on my list. I have not seen that. So, okay. Interesting. I like it. My number 10 is a little bit more of a poppy kind of pick.
Okay.
And it's a film that actually was one of those films I thought was going to be a complete disaster and actually turned out to be pretty decent, had some pretty interesting characters, and that is James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. It's my number 10.
Yeah.
I like this film. Did you see it?
I did not see it, but I meant to for sure.
I really liked this film. It was fun. Definitely a better take than the 2016 David Ayer disaster film that I just thought was horrible. This was much better. Took itself a little bit less seriously. It was just a little bit more tongue in cheek and had some good jokes and actually has some pretty good character moments towards the end of it. So yeah, it was a nice film, man. It was really well made and competent, and yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's my number 10, but yeah, much better than I thought it was going to be. What's your number 9?
Okay, my number 9 is a movie that I was talked into going to. I did not really want to see it, but I left thinking it was one of the funniest movies of the year at least, and a movie that I will see again, and that is Red Notice.
Okay, I did not see this one.
You should.
Did this come out in 2021?
Well, it came out during this Academy Award season, I believe.
Oh,
if I'm wrong, then please forgive me. But Ryan Reynolds is the most sarcastic guy, and Dwayne Johnson's in the movie too. And I don't know, I was just cracking up the whole time. It was so good. So this also, I was almost going to put in a category rather than a particular movie. So I'm kind of combining Red Notice with what you might call some traditional popcorn movies. Because there were some movies that you knew would never win a single award, except maybe, you know, some of these movies might win a special effects award or costuming or sound or something like that. So Red Notice, you know, is in the same category for me as like, I've got, I wrote down Jungle Cruise, Spider-Man, No Time to Die, Ghostbusters. Some of them are kind of dumb. Some were better than others, but they were just those kind of movies that you knew were not going to win any major awards, but they were just fun to go and eat your popcorn and have a good time. So
sometimes that's like more staying to me than, you know, being an Academy Award nominated film nowadays. It's just like, yeah.
So I kind of lumped all those together, but Red Notice was especially funny. And again, if it's not in our time frame, I apologize, but I feel like it was on the tail end.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
that's fine. It's your number 9. My number 9 is a film that came out late last year and bombed at the box office.
Okay,
this film got nuked. It was literally, I think it made like not even 10 million its opening weekend, and but I actually ended up seeing it and really enjoyed it. You know, I didn't necessarily enjoy it because it's not the most fun movie to watch, but I appreciated the grittiness of it, and that is The Last Duel.
Oh, didn't see that either, man.
This was a good ensemble. Adam Driver's in it. Matt Damon is in it. Yeah, it's a good period piece medieval film. But I definitely think it dragged on a little too long, and I feel like it just kind of like was building up to be something and then kind of just straight off into a whole nother story. It's like one of those films that like tells you know, a different chapter from a different character's perspective of like how a whole situation happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, it has a lot to say, the film, and you know, it is interesting. So I think, you know, it's kind of crazy that it just kind of got pushed down the totem pole as far as people like wanting to see films like that. And I just almost appreciated just like making a film like that nowadays, even though it just doesn't sell anymore. Like people are just so conditioned to just seeing superhero films and that's it. It's just
right.
Like, and a lot of people just can't even afford to go to the movies anymore. So it's just like, you know, they're like, oh, we'll just catch that on VOD. We'll just catch that on VOD. But it's like, you know, that's the problem is like when you don't do that, when you don't go to the films, then you're not actually like, they're just not going to get made. But when you're only going to superhero movies, they're just going to keep making those. And like, eventually it's going to reach a point where we're going to see more creativity. So maybe this film will be more appreciated.
I hope so. You know, it's kind of hard to see some of these movies because a lot of them, they release to the theaters for like 1 week.
Right.
Just so they qualify for the Oscars, and then they go to Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever. And as you know, that's a big pet peeve of mine. I believe that theatrical movies are meant to be seen in the theater and then later on television. And if they're made to be exclusively on, or, you know, for Amazon or Netflix or something, then in my opinion, we've talked about this before, I'm not sure you agree, but they're made for TV movies. So I find when I see a movie in a theater, I'm usually engrossed by it. And if I'm watching a movie at home, I'm thinking, well, maybe I can load the dishwasher, do some laundry during this part, and I get a little distracted and I don't take it all in. And I've noticed, unless it's a big blockbuster, when you go to the theater, it's not unusual to be one of 4, 5, or 6 or 8 people in the theater because so many people are watching it on TV, I guess.
Yeah.
And that concerns me because I don't want the theatrical experience to die. And there's something about the surround sound and the big screen and the theater popcorn and all that kind of stuff. It's
a
pretty
novelty
cool.
to it. Yeah.
I know. It's become a novelty.
And I feel like I enjoy more movies when I see them in the theater as opposed to like seeing them on the TV. Like,
I do too.
This was definitely a movie you need to see in theaters too. Like there's a lot of gritty, beautiful action. Ridley Scott directed this. Same year he did House of Gucci too, which I did not see either. So, spoiler on my list, but yeah, that's not on.
And
there.
what was the movie? News of the World, Tom Hanks, where that was released on Amazon and not even in the
I didn't
theaters.
even see that.
And then, like by Oscar time, they might show them here or there so people can see the Oscar-nominated movies. But as a rule, it's hard to see them in the theaters. Mm-hmm. And it is interesting though that some movies now are being promoted as exclusively in theaters. Have you noticed that in some commercials?
Yes.
And I love that. It makes me want to see it more because they're trying to make sure they don't lose the in-theater experience. And I don't mind watching stuff on TV and streaming and all that, but I think we should first see it in the theater. So there you go. There's my little...
No, and you're right. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's going to disincentivize those kind of films to be made. And like, even though I don't necessarily love everything that this film did, and that's why it's not higher on my list, I do appreciate ballsy films that have, something to say, a discussion to start, and this movie definitely will give you that. I mean, So I mean, I think it's a heavy film. It's dark. It has a lot of really disturbing imagery and disturbing scenes. I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I mean, it's an adult film through and through, and a very interesting family drama.
Okay.
What's your number 8?
Well, speaking of adult films, there's a movie called Red Rocket. A couple of red shows in a row.
That's your number 8?
That's my number 8.
That is also my number 8.
Is it really? On any given day, they could be up or down a notch or two, but it's a movie starring Simon Rex. And, he's been in a few movies.
Yeah, he was in the Scary Movie 3. That's where I remember him from.
Yep,
he was super funny in that.
He used to be in one of my favorite TV shows at the time called Jack and Jill. More than 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago.
Adam Sandler one?
No. That's a movie, but this was a TV series. It's just like kind of a group of friends type thing. And it's about this adult film industry actor trying to get his life back together again, I suppose. Is that a good description?
Yeah, this was a weird film. I thought Simon Rex was brilliant in it. It's definitely creepy at times and weird, but I think it's definitely an interesting film. It has a good soundtrack, and it has really grounded performances, and I definitely think it's definitely worth a watch. I definitely think it could have been better and maybe a little bit shorter, but honestly, I'm not gonna nitpick it too much. It's a pretty great film, and
it's one of those lower budget films.
It's funny too. It's very funny.
Funny. It's a lower budget film. Simon Rex didn't make a lot of money doing it, but he agreed to do it before even his agent found out about it. And he actually wanted to do a film or something to kind of rejuvenate his career a little bit. I think this might help it. But he was brilliant in this movie. And I was actually shocked that he actually was so brilliant in this movie that he should have been nominated for an Oscar.
I agree. He should have been nominated. He was great in the film.
He was totally 100% believable and more. He was so good, and you kind of write him off a little bit. But in this movie, he was great. It looked like it had the texture of an older movie. You could tell it was kind of a low budget movie.
It looked very guerrilla, yeah. Which is what I liked about it too.
And they did a lot of the shooting at night. They didn't get the permits they were supposed to get. Actually, when they were shooting a particular scene where he's running down the street, without any clothes on, and some police officers stopped by and asked what they were doing, and they were shooting at night to get the legitimate effect. And they didn't have permits or anything, and they let them go. But so this is kind of like a rogue film as well. I really liked it. And I honestly, there's a couple movies on my list that I went in to see that I didn't know anything about it in advance.
This was one of them for me too.
I didn't know anything about this. I just heard that Simon Rex was getting good reviews. I didn't know any reason why. And so I went to see it. And sometimes those are the greatest experiences.
Yes, they
when
are.
you see a movie and, you see so many trailers where they give, trailers are fun, but sometimes I don't even like seeing the trailers because some movies, they give everything away. And I kind of like to go in and just absorb it as it was meant to be without any clues. And I love this movie. And at the very end, I don't know if any of this should be a spoiler. There is some conversation, and I was curious about your take on this, if that very last scene was a figment of his imagination or if that was really real.
It was probably in his head. That's what I kind of took it as.
That's kind of what
it's
people...
very hyper stylized, just like a lot of his dream sequences are throughout the movies. So it's and yeah, it's one of those kind of movies, and I like those kind of films, like when dream sequences are used to actually, push a character in a certain direction, as opposed to just being there to be there. That was kind of a problem I had with, the newer Star Wars films, but that's a different discussion. But just the waste of dream sequences in those films, that's the thing. When you get a good film that understands what the character they're trying to make is, the dream sequences can be really effective, visually, to kind of give you a sense of where the character's going or what their head's at or all that. So this film is really good. And I do agree. Maybe, I think it could have been maybe 10, 15 minutes shorter, maybe. But honestly, I really thought what I saw, it was pretty good. And there's some great moments, with them on the highway. That was a really sobering, but really great moment. It's just crazy the way that they shoot that and had that all go.
And I have to say, too, that, just one more thing on Simon Rex is that he played a character that was desperate. And he still had dreams of getting, trying to get his life back on track and everything. There's desperate. He played the part perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything that he could have done better or more convincing for his character.
And he's in almost every scene, too. He has to carry the whole movie. So it's he definitely should have been nominated for Best Actor. I agree.
Totally agree. Okay.
All right. What's your number 7?
My number 7 is a movie that's getting more acclaim than maybe what I'm giving it. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it, but I was kind of raising an eyebrow through a lot of it, trying to figure it out, and that is Licorice Pizza.
That's your number 7?
That's my number 7. That's a lot of people.
Hold off on that.
Okay.
Hold off on that.
It's a lot of number 1 and a number 2, number 3 for a lot of people. I've got it as number 7.
Okay. My number 7 is The Mitchells versus the Machines. Have you heard of this film?
I actually have not.
This is an animated film on Netflix.
It surprises me. Okay.
And it's really good.
Is it?
It's definitely the best animated film of the year. It should. I don't know if it's nominated. It should be. If it's not for best animated feature, I can't remember. But it's a great film. Netflix did a great job with this, and
to check it out.
It's a family story. It's a road trip story, and it's silly. It's over the top. It's an animated film, but it has a lot to say about human dependence on technology and connecting with your family and it has a lot of really good message. Growing up, going to college, it's a big part of it. A lot of those kind of themes, and it was just a really good, feel good animated film. In a year with a lot of these pretty drab films throughout 2020 and 2021, getting a movie like this that was just had something to say, but is also a fun animated family film it was really solid. I really enjoyed it. I think you should check it out if you have Netflix.
I do actually. I need to check it out while I still can, because my brother came here to visit and he wanted to see the great British baking show or whatever that's called, and hooked me up, and I still get it. So before Netflix catches on, I need to watch that movie.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's good. What's your number 7? Or I'm sorry, your number 7 was Licorice Pizza. What's your number 6?
Okay, this one you're probably going to argue with me about.
Okay, go ahead.
And but I'm going to tell you that a couple days ago would not have even have made my list. And it's one of those that as time goes on and I think about it more, I like it more. So if we did this next weekend, it might be higher. Right now, I'm considering it to be a gift, and it's Power of the Dog.
Did not make my list.
Did you see it?
I did see it.
Okay, you make me feel better because I was feeling guilty. It was only number 6.
I did see it.
Okay. So we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So one of my coworkers, who you know, Dave, saw it and asked me if I saw it and said, no, I'm going to see it this weekend. And he said, well, I won't say a word. And after I watched it, I texted him and said, what was that, in caps? And he said, is everything okay? He said, no. I just watched Power of the Dog. And I felt like it was pointless, that it just dragged on. It was almost like a movie with based on a one joke movie, you know. So the conclusion was based on, it just kind of took forever to get. I felt like it could have originally, I'm saying, it could have been like a 10-minute short and be nominated for best movie short if they had done it right. And it took a long time to get to the end. And I kind of scratched my head at the end. But the more I think about it, the more, I don't know if I want to use the word brilliant, but the more it's a smart movie, but you really have to think about every step along the way, and you understand the end. And I don't know, we don't do spoilers here, right?
Yeah.
So some people still haven't seen it. So it reminded me of when I saw the Broadway musical Rent on Broadway. And at the time, it was the talk of Broadway as being one of the greatest, most impactful movies of all time, or Broadway shows of all time. And I saw it. I knew I saw something special, but I just didn't get it. And then as time went on, I appreciated it more. I read about it a little bit more, which sometimes, and this is a case opposite of what I said earlier, it would have been helpful if I knew a little bit more about it. And I'm starting to like it a little bit, and the process, but it's a slow movie, and every scene leads you to the next, which leads you to the next, which leads you to the conclusion. And the kid that you think is so weak may not be. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I didn't love it. I thought it was like kind of what you mentioned. It dragged on so long.
You and Sam Shepard.
And yeah, I thought it was way too long, and not enough happens in the first and second act are a chore to get through. And then like by the time you get there, I didn't really find myself caring about the characters or the relationship.
I do agree.
I don't think they had enough there to build up, and like also on top of that, it's like other films have done it better, in my opinion, what they were trying to go for. You know, and yeah, without spoiling too much, it very much, you know, definitely thought Brokeback Mountain did a lot of what they were trying to do a lot better. Yeah. But, you know, I you know, it was okay. And I like Benedict Cumberbatch in it. He's good in it.
And he was nominated for that.
Yeah.
As were Kirsten Dunst and her.
Yeah, she was good.
Her real life husband.
Yeah, but her character just kind of like, they kind of run out of stuff for her to do. Like,
exactly. And there wasn't anything incredible about her part. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it. She still got nominated. Her real life husband played her eventual husband in this movie. Yeah. That's not giving anything away because it happens early on. Yeah. But he's nominated too. So this is definitely an Oscar favorite.
Definitely.
And Sam Shepard, the actor, criticized the movie because he's agreeing with what you're saying and what I originally thought. And some of the actors in the movie are really criticizing him for that. So, you know, everyone's got their own opinion.
Right. And yeah.
And that's why I'm going to be justifying some of my other picks on this list because other people don't agree with me.
I'll say this much. It's a well-made film. There's some good tension and good scenes in there, but it doesn't have enough cohesion to me to keep me interested throughout the whole thing.
I agree, but there's a very good chance it could win Best Movie.
Yeah, it's getting buzz for sure. And it's definitely, it fits like what the Oscars, like, you know, they're.
Yeah.
So, what was that? Was that your number 6?
That was number 6.
My number 6 is a film that did a lot with very little space and very little budget, and that is a film called Mass.
I did not see that, but it was on my list.
Yeah, this film, it was my number 1 for some time, but other films ended up coming in and taking the place. But I thought this film was pretty well done in what it was trying to do. It's, you know, it's basically, without spoiling too much of it, it's basically 4 people in a room that have a lot of history and some bad things happen with their children, and they're kind of coming back into this space to kind of, you know, inside of a church, basically in the upstairs of a church, they meet and basically have the whole space rented out to kind of hash out these issues. And it's a very heavy film with a lot of great performances, great dialogue. I think it was a play that was adapted to a film, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. It could just be an original film, but if it is, like I thought it was really great, and yeah, it deals with with a very hard issue, but it does it with by showing at least all of the perspectives of it through the characters, and kind of leaves the viewer up to kind of make a decision. Like that's kind of what I like. I mean, it kind of does take an angle, which is why I didn't move it higher on my list. It kind of moved down, but it tries to be objective. So I at least appreciate that. Yeah, I thought it was okay.
So it's very character driven, not a lot
very
of
character driven, a lot of writing, and there isn't even any. There is some flashbacks, but like it's mostly just like takes place in that room.
Done well. I love those kind of movies. Yeah. I love character studies. I love movies where intelligent conversation drives a movie, and you don't need any special effects or anything like that.
Right. It's shot like 10 Angry Men. Or 12 Angry Men, I'm sorry. You've seen 12 Angry Men?
Yeah.
It's shot very much like that, very intimate in one room, and you got a few characters, and they all have, there's certain quirks and things about them, so that make it work. So yeah, I liked it. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is one that I may be the only one who put this movie on its list, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge entertainment fan, a huge music fan, and I'm very there are 2 movies that I'm very skeptical of. One are remakes of classic movies.
Yep.
Like, why was it necessary to remake Lion King, for one? Why is it necessary to make remakes of It's a Wonderful Life or whatever? Because they never do as well, and it's just like, they already mastered it. Let it go.
Right.
And the other one are biopics, because you never know afterwards how accurate they are, and we can talk about that more in some of my other picks. But I loved this movie, and it was emotional at the end. And at the end of this movie, the people in the theater with me, everyone applauded, and it was the Aretha Franklin story called Respect.
Haven't seen it.
I loved this movie. I was just certain that Jennifer Hudson would get a Best Actress nomination for this. When Aretha Franklin was alive, there was a lot of talk of who would play Aretha Franklin, and she suggested people like Halle Berry and others. A great actress, but can she sing like Aretha Franklin? Jennifer Hudson pulled it off completely, both in the acting area, and then she was so convincing as Aretha Franklin, the singer. Of course, she's got an incredible set of pipes herself. So, and some of my friends say about when I say I like this movie, they say the same thing they told me when I saw Rocket Man, because I'm an Elton John fan. And they said, of course you're going to like a movie like that. It's about Elton John, or it's about Aretha Franklin. I said, no. That's actually not true. Because I am such a big fan, I think I watch these movies with a more critical eye.
Right.
And I might be less likely to like those movies. I thought Respect was a story well told. It was not her entire life, so they didn't try to cram her entire life into it. It was up to a certain point where she recorded a now classic gospel album, and her struggles to make it and to have the career that she wanted to have rather than the career that the record company executives wanted her to have, and then her personal struggles. Thought it was very good. Jennifer Hudson was amazing. Respect is my number 5 movie.
All right. Yeah, I have not seen that, so I'll check that out for sure.
I will tell you, too, that a lot of these movies, they write an original song so they can try to get an original song nomination for these biopics from people that are not recording anymore. And they did not do that. I won't spoil it, but the song they play at the very end, which is actual footage, it wasn't acting, it was actual Aretha Franklin footage. I won't tell you what it is, but you're spellbound. And if you don't get a little emotional seeing it, you may be a very cold person.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, that's good. My number 5 is a movie you mentioned earlier, Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay. I enjoyed this film a lot. I mean, I think I got nostalgia baited a little bit too hard on it, but I think that they did a good job of like incorporating the older Spider-Man films into this. I mean, this is like the ultimate Spider-Man fans Spider-Man film. And that's, I'm not like the biggest fan of the comics. I mean, I haven't read all of them, so like I can't speak on it like a lot of people, but I really enjoy like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and
Yeah.
So like, and even like parts of the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, like, you know, even though they're not good movies, like he's good in them. And so like seeing those guys back was really great. And I mean, I talked about this movie a lot already, but yeah, it's check out my review on it. But yeah, I just kind of some thoughts, you know, that I'm a few months removed from it. You know, I do like it, and I just don't know again how much I'll see this again. You know, I think when it's the shock factor of like seeing those characters all back on screen together, I feel like this movie is maybe not going to sit as high as like, you know, the Avengers, Infinity Wars, and some of the other earlier Marvel films. But I mean, this was a big breath of life for the MCU because they were starting to lose a little bit of steam. And this movie at least got them a lot more money than I thought it would make. I mean, yeah, it blew up and it kind of helped bring the theater industry back. So
It really did. Yeah.
I can thank it for that.
For sure.
And, you know, yeah, it satisfied a lot of people. And I think, but the thing is, like I said, kind of closing my thoughts on it is that like Marvel and, you know, Disney need to get more creative, I think, with like their storytelling and their characters and really like, cause like it's just kind of losing a lot of people's interest. Like I don't even really watch the MCU series anymore. And a lot of that stuff, I'm just like, it's a waste of time. So I'm just kind of like, I'll wait for the movies of the characters I care about. Like I'm done following the continuity of it all. So it's just like,
it takes a lot of work to
the
follow
series
it
is
these
over
days.
too. It's like, you know, it just feels like everything right now is an afterthought. So it's like they're just doing fan service and trying to collect as much money as they can before they.
Well, that's the thing. That's what it felt like to me. But I enjoyed it. It's good. And I saw it early enough that I didn't know what the big surprise was. I don't know if we say what the big surprise was, if everybody knows it
Yeah,
already,
you could.
right?
Yeah, everybody's seen that movie.
Okay,
We can spoil this one.
So when you know, all the previous recent Spider-Man appeared on screen together, I didn't know that was going to happen. So that was a great surprise.
Yeah.
You know, now everybody knows. They've talked about it.
Yeah,
you
the
know,
press leaked it and all
they
that.
denied it for so long on talk shows and so on. So that was kind of fun. And also a lot of people are calling it the greatest Marvel movie of all time. How do you feel about that?
I disagree personally. I think there's a lot that are better than this. But I do think it's the best Marvel movie they made since Avengers Endgame, which I liked Endgame, but I didn't love it like I loved Infinity Wars. Infinity Wars for me is my favorite.
Yeah.
But you know, this was good. This was a step in the right direction, but at the same time, it's like this was more of a Sony movie than a Disney movie. I mean, Sony made the biggest, you know, share of the profit. It wasn't. Yeah, that's the thing. At Disney, Sony can pretty much take Spider-Man. Sony can pretty much take Spider-Man at any time. Like, you know, that's the thing. Like, they're just lending him to Disney because he's, you know, they have the whole character catalog over there. So it's like, he's a rental, really, is what I'm trying to say.
He's a rental. I enjoyed it. I put it in my category of popcorn movies. You know, I love some of these superhero movies and comic book movies, but I'm not into it as much as others. So, you know, I enjoy them, and I go and get my popcorn and, you know, Coke Zero, and I'm good, and enjoy it, and then say, well, that was good, and then move on to the rest of my day. So that's how it is.
So what's your number 4?
My number 4 is one I was really looking forward to. It was in the theater for about 20 minutes, and then it went on Amazon. And I actually ordered the 30-day free membership on Amazon so I could watch it because you can't find it in theaters. And then I forgot to cancel after 30 days, so I'm still paying for Amazon. But that is Being the Ricardos. And what I really love about this movie is I love television, movie, music history. And this is a week in Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's life, basically.
Okay.
And I feel like I know an awful lot about the show, so I could challenge things in my head. There was very little to challenge. What I was most fearful of is that they were going to try to recreate some of the comedy scenes, and nobody could do it better than Lucy. And it would just become some sort of a caricature or some kind of a joke,
right,
or not be pulled off. And where they were very smart, Aaron Sorkin, where he was very smart it's a behind the scenes story. So I had a couple of recreations of a famous scene or two, but it's mostly what was happening behind the scenes. And what I liked about this is everything that happened in the movie actually happened.
Right.
But it did not happen in that time frame. So what he did is he condensed 3 or 4 things that happened in Lucy and Desi's life into 1 week, and he admitted that up front. So I was okay with that. If they tried to pretend all of these things happened in 1 week's time, then I would have felt they're trying to dupe us. I would have thought about it differently. But they combined everything into 1 week's time with things that actually happened. Whether Lucy was accused of being not only having red hair but being red, being a communist.
Yeah.
And some of the behind the scenes stuff with the making of the movie and her and Desi and stuff. It was really fascinating. I was riveted to the television because I did watch it on Amazon throughout the whole thing. The performances, 3 of the 4 main actors were nominated for Oscars. Nicole Kidman and the other 2. Only the one who played Vivian Vance was not nominated, and she should have. She was outstanding. But it's a very competitive field, too. Plus, it's kind of political. So you don't know who's really going to get nominated. But it was a great cast, done very well, and way better than I expected, which I was very happy about. So Being the Ricardos is my number 4.
Have not seen it. This one was one I missed. Yeah. I wanted to see it actually, but I missed it. It was
if you blinked, you missed your chance to see it in the theaters. Yeah. But it's on Amazon.
Yeah, I'll check that out. My number 4, right? That was your number 4, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, yeah. My number 4 is an incredibly unique film that I just had a lot of fun with. It's very short, very to the point, and that is Pig.
I did not see that.
Oh my goodness, this movie is crazy. Yeah, it stars Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage has been doing some insane movies lately, man. He's had a crazy run.
Yeah.
And he's even doing a new film where he plays himself, and that looks pretty silly. So, he's just, I love his choice of films lately, just really low budget.
I mean, what does he got to lose, really?
Right. And, just kind of allows him to just play a role. And, we talked about a film called Willy's Wonderland that he did last year that was crazy. And this was actually my favorite film, though. When I saw this, I was like, this was just, it's silly, but it has a heart. It has heart to it, and it has a lot to say, about society and a guy just trying to live a simple life, and being disrupted by all these outside forces. And it's really it was really good. And
where did you see it?
I watched it on demand. I rented it.
Okay, on demand. Is it on Netflix?
It's on. I got it on Amazon Prime.
Okay, I still have that.
Actually, I think it's on. Let me see if it's on. Let me see if I can search it and see what it's on. It's on Hulu. That's where I watched it. It was on Hulu.
Okay.
I didn't rent it. Oh, sorry. Look the dog up. Yeah, it was on Hulu. That's where I saw it.
Okay. It sounds great. Nicolas Cage doesn't get much respect these days, and so what has he got to lose? He's doing movies like this, and he's actually made a couple of interesting, good movies.
Yeah. He's still got a good, he's still hanging on. He's a good actor. And this was just a really fun, heartwarming film, not too heavy, just, but has, had some heart to it. So yeah, that made my list. What is your number? We are now in the top 3. What is your number 3?
Okay. I will say that my top 4 on any given day, it could be a different order, including Being the Ricardos. Could have been, for a long time, it was my number 1. My number 3 is West Side Story.
Didn't make my list.
Did you see it? Oh my God. The reason I loved it, 1, it was very well done. And this is an example of one of those movies when I first heard about it. Why in the world are you going to mess with a classic that's already been done? How could it be any better? It's already a beloved movie. It already won Academy Awards. It's a classic among classics. And then the more I saw a documentary on the making of the movie, this was a movie that inspired Steven Spielberg when he was a kid, and he saw it when he was a kid, and it just got his creative juices going, which led to his incredible career. We could talk for another 2 hours about his career, and so what I liked about this movie, if it was just a rehash of the original, it probably would not have made my list. But what I like about it is it was not a remake of the movie. It was a remake. It was a theatrical version of the Broadway show, which had some subtle differences from the movie. Yeah. So it wasn't a remake of the movie, but it was based on the Broadway show. And one of the most incredible things is that in the original movie, it wasn't. It did not have the diverse cast in reality to what they were portraying. And this cast was authentic character-wise, with Puerto Rican actors and actresses playing those roles instead of Caucasian people trying to be Puerto Rican. You know what I mean? Back in, in the day, I guess they did a lot of that sort of thing. And so he tried to make it.
They only did that though with Natalie Wood's character. And they even ended up having a voice dub, but
they did have a voice dub, and
I didn't like the voice dub. But
I know that's a whole different thing. And I in my previous life in radio, I interviewed the person who was this actual singer, but you're not totally accurate, because there were a lot of other actors that were not authentic to the role. So. And also what he did is he did take a little license. He created a character for Rita Moreno, who won the Oscar in the original production, and she's older now, and he made a part for her. So she was in that. I thought it was visually pleasing. The music, we all know the music was great. I thought it was a great movie, and the purpose behind it was, I feel like it was sincere, and it was not a money grab to remake a classic movie. They tried to make it really authentic with the sets, with the script, with the Broadway version, and the casting and so on. So
yeah, another movie that tanked at the box office.
Yeah,
this movie made $10 million opening weekend.
Yeah,
which is I don't know what to say about it. I watched. To be honest, I watched half of it and I fell asleep. I put it on before bed, and the reason why is
you watched it at home.
Yes, I did. I watched it on HBO, but also the reason is that I was gonna watch this version with my aunt who came into town a couple weeks ago. But she was like, "Have you seen the original?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Well, we have to watch the original then." So we watched the original one. I didn't like it.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't like it.
Oh my gosh, it's okay.
And I like old music. I like music from the 50s, 40s, 60s. Like I like that era.
Yeah, I know you do.
It just didn't. Nothing was catchy. Nothing was very I just didn't gravitate to any of the characters. I understood absolutely what was going on. Like I get it. I get what the film was. It just, it didn't. I didn't like the original. So I was like, I guess I got to watch the Spielberg one, and I threw it on, got about halfway through it, and I mean, it was like all the same beats though of the story.
Right.
Yes, they definitely changed some of the nuances and the characters, and put more culturally appropriate actors in there and whatever, but it's still why do we need to keep, reinventing the wheel here? It's kind of
I do agree with that part of it.
And the movie was definitely trying to make money. I mean, they spent $150 million to make the film, and it didn't make that. I mean, the interest just wasn't there for it. And it's because it's just a lot of people do love the original, and I didn't like it. So it's I was like, how am I going to even sit through a whole film, another 2.5 hour film, when I didn't even like the original that was 2.5 hours. So it's just
no, you're right. Anytime you get Spielberg and the production team behind it that they did, obviously they're trying to make money.
Right.
And when I say it wasn't trying to be a money grab, obviously it's trying to be financially, successful, but it wasn't like, hey, let's just remake this movie because it's an automatic. I mean, they did try to be true to several things that the original film wasn't. So I liked it. And
you've probably seen the Broadway play, right?
I've seen a touring version of it.
Okay, yeah. I haven't seen the play version, so I don't know what they did or didn't include. But
it's subtle, but it's still. I like that they were being true to the Broadway production rather than just rehashing the movie. But they are. You're right. They are so similar that you may not even notice.
Right.
But I think the intent was good, knowing that it was the movie that inspired Spielberg to kind of begin his creative process. Was kind of cool, and the cultural diversity was kind of cool too. So anyway, there are a lot of reasons why I liked it.
That was your number 3, right?
Yeah, one time it was number 1.
My number 3 is a film that you actually did press for. You interviewed the main actor, I guess, in this film, and that is Bad Trip from Eric Andre.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You know what? That was a funny movie.
I had to put this, and I actually watched this last night or 2 nights ago. To kind of reaffirm that this was going to be this high on my list, but I loved this film when it came out, and I have watched it 2 or 3 times since, just for rewatchability. It's incredibly silly. It's a prank film, which I still haven't seen the new Jackass film, so I need to see that. But and he's in that as well. But Eric Andre is just making some of the best, silliest comedy like out there, and I really think he's been doing great stuff. But I mean, it's just like he's becoming so recognizable now. Like it's hard for him to do the man on the street stuff and like that kind of stuff. So you just like I'm enjoying it while it's here, kind of thing, because he is getting big. I mean, now he's doing like phone commercials and all sorts of stuff. So like he's completely blown up, and he's doing animated films and all that. So it's like. He's actually in the Mitchells versus the Machines as well.
Oh,
he's
is he?
The villain, yeah. So like he's getting a lot of work, and I really, this film was it was brilliant. The stunts that he did, he's always willing to put his body on the line. Like the scene with the bar where he falls off the thing, and obviously the best one's one of him in the smoothie shop, and he, has the girl cut all them and all that. It's just really funny, and like seeing natural reactions. I mean, it definitely goes over the top, but. And definitely kind of gets silly and movie-like, but it knows exactly what it is, and like it tries to have like a little bit of a cohesive narrative, like road trip narrative to it, which I appreciated. So
this was a movie that was delayed several times because of COVID.
Yes,
and finally came out, and maybe didn't get the acclaim that it would have in a normal year because it was delayed and so on and so forth. But it's very funny. He has no line. He'll cross any line. He has no filter. It makes it so jackassy type funny because there are no barriers,
right? And I just like how they try to make it like a cohesive story, and even like Tiffany Haddish, she goes a little over the top at times, which she's all right. I mean, but she's pretty funny in this film. Like she definitely gets put in some good situations. It's just I think she went a little over the top. That's probably like my biggest complaint, but it was really funny. I really liked it, and I definitely want to see more films like that.
I almost forgot about that movie, so I don't know. That may have made my top 10 if I had not slipped my mind so long ago.
But you saw it, right?
I did. Yeah. Yes.
You had to,
yeah.
Because you talked to Eric. For
I did
like an hour.
We did like a Zoom interview, and he was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah.
He was like making drinks while you guys were
the whole time.
So that was good. So. What is your number 2?
Now, this movie I just stumbled upon when I was going through Netflix. And, I do prefer seeing movies in the theater, of course. But I was going through and said, I've heard a lot about this movie, but I don't really know much about it. I knew that Lin-Manuel Miranda was behind it, but I didn't really know the gist of it. And it's Tick, Tick, Boom.
Did not see it.
It is so good. And what made it maybe as good as it was because I didn't know the whole story. And I will tell you that, I mentioned Rent earlier, which was written by Jonathan Larson. And this is the story of Jonathan Larson reaching the point to Rent and his struggles and his support by Broadway heavyweights like Stephen Sondheim and others, as he was trying to get to the point where he would have a huge success like Rent. It is so good. The characters are amazing. His drive, his ambition, his talent is through the roof, and it is so good. The acting is great. The music is incredible, and it's very authentic. And Tick, Tick, Boom, terrific movie.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of buzz about it. I just completely forgot about it, but yeah, I definitely want to watch that. Because actually a friend of mine, Alec, also said that was good. So number 2 on my list is a film I actually just saw last night, and I thought I was floored by it. And that is...
Which one?
Belfast. I loved this film. I thought it was so hard-edged, has a lot to say, about gang violence and territories and turf wars, especially in Ireland, which has been an issue for hundreds of years. And it's crazy to just see it, it takes place in like the late 60s, early 70s. And, it's through this perspective of this kid that lives there and his family that lives there. And like, they're trying to escape it because it's becoming, a war-torn, Civil War-esque, political tool basically for the English Empire. And, there's groups of people there that they believe in different things. They have different, and just be associated with, the Protestants and the Catholics at that time. And, seeing the perspective of, people that just want to live their lives and are just being caught in the middle of, these problems that they can't really, handle individually. And it's interesting to see like what causes people to want to immigrate from different countries to different places, and seeing, I wish it kind of went a little deeper into that, but I get that it was more of an anecdotal story about a family during that time, more so than the whole grand scope of what causes those kind of situations. And I wish there was a little bit more perspective, I think, on the actual, bad groups, on like who these people are and why they're going and destroying, certain places that people live, certain residential areas. But I think that just like through it, it's interesting because you have to, when you want to immigrate, when you want to leave, you're leaving everything behind. And I think that Kenneth Branagh, this is probably one of his best films I think he's ever made.
Wow.
It's beautifully shot, black and white. I love black and white.
When it's done right.
Yeah.
If it's a gimmick, I don't like it. But if it's done in the sense that you're talking about, it sounds great.
It's black and white, and it's just like, but it definitely like looks like a classic film, and it definitely has a lot of homages to classic films throughout it. So you can definitely feel that, but it has this very like tangible sense of urgency. And I mean, the first 20 minutes get you hooked because it's just like, man, like things are really great. It's really well set up. So I really enjoyed the film. I think you would like it. It's not too dark like The Last Duel is. That's probably was the most effed up, darkest film I saw. But this one, it definitely kind of gets to those kind of great moments of tension and great dialogue. I mean, Kenneth Branagh wrote the script. It's nominated for Best Original Screenplay. It's nominated for Best Picture. I think Judi Dench is nominated, even though I don't think she'll win. I thought she was good in the film, but she barely doesn't. I don't think she has enough screen time for her to actually like win, in my opinion. But, it's a really good film. It's a heavy film, but it had, it really does a good job of telling it from a family's perspective of, having to deal with, a criminal syndicate taking over your town pretty much.
So I have to tell you that I belong to a movie club at one of the movie chains, and I picked up 2 free tickets to see an early screening of this movie, and the tickets I had for a while, you picked them up a couple of weeks before it was shown, and I got the weekends mixed up, and I missed it. And so I was thinking, I think it's this weekend. Let me check. And it was like the weekend before. I was so disappointed. And then it wasn't in the theaters for a long time. I think it might be now just because it's closer to Oscar time. But I was really upset about it, especially after hearing the great response.
Yeah,
they were trying to create the buzz with that, the free screening thing.
I wouldn't be upset if it won Best Picture, but I don't know. I don't know if it has enough buzz, but I really liked it. And it's an interesting tale.
Yeah, I'll be curious what your number 1 is.
What's your number 1?
Like I said, my top 4, any of them could be my number 1. And I did not see Belfast, and did not see Coda, which I guess is also nominated. But I picked, at this moment in time, like I said, it could change in 10 minutes, but King Richard.
I didn't see it. I almost put it on last night, but I'm like, it's too late, and it's a 2.5 hour film.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I liked it because the obvious thing would be to tell the story of the Williams sisters, but it was told through the eyes of their father, of course, King Richard, and he was a unique guy. He seemed to be, from what I can tell, it's pretty accurate, and it just shows the making of 2 unlikely tennis stars, from an unlikely background to do that. But he had a vision that he kept true to, and it was realized. And it's very cool at the end where they show the real footage of him. We all know what Venus and Serena Williams looks like, and their great success. But we see footage of him doing some of the things that are depicted in the film. So it's kind of cool to see how similar it was, and a well-driven man who definitely wanted to be in control, but at some point he realizes that the girls are growing up. I'm not going to say much more, but it's a terrific movie. Will Smith deserves his Oscar nomination. I will tell you that.
Yeah, I need to see this before the Oscars.
He was outstanding. I don't think the buzz has him winning, but he was outstanding and convincing. And you forget that he's Will Smith. there are a lot of movies where he's Will Smith playing
Right.
a character with a different name, but it's Will Smith.
Yeah,
Here
Will Smith playing Will
you
Smith,
lose sight of the fact that he's a former rapper and they're a big budget movie guy in a lot of cases. And I loved it. I loved the story, and I loved how they told the story. And there you go. And so this also falls into a category. I almost did something, put a genre in here too, instead of mentioning movies. But some honorable mentions within this movie are just the general sports movies. Two other movies that I like that would never... that will not win any awards. One was American Underdog.
Yep, I watched it. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was okay.
I liked it too.
It was pretty run of the mill, but it was good.
And there's another great movie called 12 Mighty Orphans with Martin Sheen.
Haven't seen that.
They're both really good, but my trouble with movies like that is you're so impressed with them and they play on your emotions and they play on the final play of each game or whatever, and then you read what really happened and they realize that they condensed like 10 years into one game. Yeah. And they're not factually correct. And I guess there's something to be said for artistic license and combining characters and events and all that, but when it's so much, you can't watch a movie and say it's based on a true story when most of it's not true, but it is based on a true story.
Right, that's how they get away with that.
But Kurt Warner, great story. I believe he's a sincere guy, and the gist of the story was accurate. They had things out of sequence, and they forgot to mention a few things, but it was a good movie. 12 Mighty Orphans is a traditional sports movie where they get your adrenaline going and you're rooting for them and all that kind of stuff. Really good, but the best sports movie of the year was King Richard, and at this point in time, it's my favorite movie.
All right, yeah. That's interesting. For me, my number one is a film that I saw a couple of weeks ago and had a lot of requests from people to check it out. And I was blown away by how smart and likable this film was and how rewatchable this is. And it's a film that you mentioned earlier. It was your number 7. It is Licorice Pizza. Okay. It's my number 1. I loved this film, man. Paul Thomas Anderson, I mean, he's a household name at this point. He's made some of the best films of the last 25 years. Yeah. I mean, go down the list. Boogie Nights, Magnolia is an interesting film. The Master is a very heavy, cerebral film. He did Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler, which was a good film. Yes. It had some charm to it. And then, to make a film like There Will Be Blood, which is just such a heavy, dense character study. I mean, the guy just circles all the bases, and he just knows how to write characters. And this film, to me, I loved how, and that's the thing with so many of these films can go wrong where you're just following characters through their life and it's not really like this linear story, but he just makes it so about these characters, PTA, with his writing and directing, that like it just brings it all together and it makes it seem so tangible. And I just love the writing of these characters.
Yeah, I know.
Cooper Hoffman, the son of Philip Seymour Hoffman, is brilliant in this role. I know he was requested to be this character, and he's perfect. And just a really likable male character. You don't see those very often in modern films. So it was great to see a real like romance that was very like grounded in just two people that are flawed and have, a lot of problems, but they're young and like, the age gap could have been maybe closed a little bit to make it like a little less like creepy, but like still, honestly, for what the film is, I really enjoyed it, and the relationship is earned throughout the whole film. That's what I really liked about it. It's just a great romance film that's very unique.
I was a little confused by it though, but I liked it. I liked how it was shot too, because it looked like a 70s movie.
Yes, that's what I loved about it too.
Yeah,
and he does the 70s so well.
Yeah, and I love the casting because there were a lot of famous people related to famous people, like Leonardo DiCaprio's father was in this movie.
Yes.
Tim Conway's son, who's a radio talk show host, was in this movie. The female lead is part of the female rock group called Haim, and all that entire family was in the movie.
Yeah.
And so you're not getting a lot of polished actors. I think that's probably what he was looking for. And, I liked it. It just, it's one of those I had to think about a little bit too, because I wasn't sure. It's based on a true story, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. And what's weird about it is like all the big name actors in it are playing like small roles. Like Bradley Cooper's in a very small role. Sean Penn is in it, and he's in a very small role. So it's just like these very contained little anecdotes that kind of give you a whole picture. And this romance is really the story, the overarching story, and everything else around it is just kind of there to build these characters up to what they're gonna be. So I thought that was just so like well done for a film like this in modern day. And that's the thing, what I was talking about at the beginning, where, a lot of great filmmakers aren't getting the budgets that they used to. This film PTA was writing a script for something else, and then midway was just like, you know what, I'm going to write this instead. And because he got writer's block or whatever, and ended up writing this film and going with this film, which he, realized he could shoot during the pandemic in LA because, basically, he could do it there and do it for really cheap. And a lot of this stuff is shot in houses and in buildings and stuff. So like they made it work. And it's a great film. I thought it was so well done. And to see like a male and female protagonists that are like really likable again, but also flawed and have issues. So it was really good. It
was really good. Jules the Arena dog sees another dog going by the house. So, I also loved like little subtle things like John Peters, the character playing John Peters, who was dating Barbara Streisand at the time.
Yeah, that was Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, and I loved the little bit where they're talking about the pronunciation of Barbara Streisand's last name, and it is Barbara Streisand, and she makes that clear. It's not Barbara Streisand like a lot of people say. And actually, just a little tidbit to go off a little bit. Apple or when you Siri would say. How do you pronounce Barbara Streisand? It would say Barbara Streisand. So Barbara Streisand, with her pull, called Tim Cook and said, "You guys are pronouncing my name wrong. Can you fix that?" And he did.
Yeah,
and that was in real life. So, but anyway, I liked the movie. It was very quirky, and I loved the casting too. Like you say, the bigger stars were just in cameos or smaller parts, and the main roles were actors that we don't really know.
Yeah, and like what a debut for Cooper Hoffman too. Like so charming in this film.
His dad would be proud.
Yeah, he was so charming and great for this role. I mean, and you just seeing it up front, you're like, this is just strange. Like, but it's like it feels very real. And that's what I liked about it, just from the writing, from everything. But like then they tie this, fairy tale like romance within it, but they make it seem so grounded because everything surrounding it is grounded. So, and like these characters, you just realize that they're, they got great chemistry. So
maybe worked. I should have had it higher.
I really appreciated it. And it was just like it was a smart film too, man. The whole thing with the gas. I mean, that's an issue we're seeing today. And like, it was funny to see them like, that's one of the best scenes in the whole film. And it was a great source of tension and just like discomfort, but also like really funny, witty dialogue. So it's just a really like good feel good movie that PTA hasn't made in a while. So
no, it's a good movie. It
had to be my number one.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's our list though.
All right. I had one that didn't quite make my
list.
Let's
go. Yeah, I was gonna say let's go through honorable mentions. What are your honorable mentions?
I mentioned a few in certain categories, but one that I wanted to make my list, I really liked it, is The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Okay.
And it's a story that most people know, so I hesitate seeing movies like that because why make a movie of a story that we already know so well? I mean, they're making a movie about Tiger King and everybody knows the story, so why are you going to want to watch a movie about it? You already know what's going to happen.
Right.
And you already know what's going to happen, but they kind of told it in a way that I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see how they were kind of telling more of the behind the scenes than what we saw in the news. And so Andrew Garfield was amazing. I think we're really seeing him like in Tick, Tick, Boom. He is amazing. I think we're seeing him grow as an actor. And I forgot the actress who played Tammy Faye. She got nominated. Jessica Chastain.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but she was really good too. And it was a good movie. That's my honorable mention that in Billboard magazine on the charts, they have a thing called Bubbling Under. Songs that don't quite make the charts. This is my Bubbling Under.
Yeah, I got a few honorable mentions here. Godzilla vs. Kong was fun.
Really?
I thought it was fun and silly.
Oh, my God.
Judas and the Black Messiah, that came out early last year. I thought it was pretty heavy.
But I believe, wasn't that nominated some last year?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Malignant. which was on my list for a while.
Okay.
Really liked it. Creative movie. Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune. I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I reviewed it, but yeah, I liked a lot of the visuals in it. But again, yeah, Denis Villeneuve, his films just kind of lack a lot of personality, in my opinion. Anyway, Nobody with what's his name, Bob Odenkirk, was a really good action flick. He was pretty convincing in that. Nightmare Alley is another one.
I know you like
thought
that.
about, but I actually prefer the 1945 version with Tyrone Powell, which is available in the public domain.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it was well shot, pretty creepy at times, and unsettling, but it just lacked a lot of the good, solid character. It gave you too much background on the character of Stanton Carlisle. They gave too much background on him, so like he's just too despicable in the film. Like that's the thing that the original does better, is that like the way Tyrone Powell plays him, he's more convincingly, just a good guy that's getting corrupted, more so than just like a straight up evil guy, which is what they make him in this. So
I see.
Could have used a little bit more moral complexity. And then lastly, A Quiet Place 2, which almost made my list. Almost did. It was very close. Really solid horror sequel. Really like what John Krasinski is doing as a director. So I want to see him do some more stuff outside of these Quiet Place movies. But
was it worth making a sequel?
I don't know. I mean, I really liked it, but like, it's like, I think the direction they're bringing in, I mean, they need to give us a little bit more on, and they did actually give us a little bit more on like why this is all happening within the universe and all that. But like, yeah, I just hope they kind of take their time with it and not get too like over the place. But it had some good performances and like added a lot more like complexity. And like now that Krasinski got to be behind the camera for the whole film, it made it a lot more like directorially clean.
That's a family with bad luck.
Yeah.
I thought the Godzilla King Kong movie was just horrendous.
I thought it was silly. I thought
it was
silly for sure. But I liked how it didn't take itself too seriously. Because if you watch the original, like 2014 Godzilla, I say original, but it's not. The 2014 Godzilla movie, like it took itself too seriously. And like at least with this film, like it had some fun. It actually showed the monsters. Like people want to see the monsters fight. We got to see that. So like that enough for me was like it was a great looking CGI film. But again, and it actually made pretty good money at the box office, which is pretty crazy.
Well, it came out at a time when there were not a lot of movies like that, kind of mass appeal blockbuster movies that were out because of COVID. And it came out as one of the first like blockbuster movies that came out. So it did really great at the box office. But one of my favorite things is a friend of mine who saw it said, "I'm so sure." I said, "What? So you really think that Godzilla and King Kong are going to fight in real life?" It's not really going to happen, but it just was...
It's silly, yeah.
I thought it was a dumb movie.
All right, so final question here before we get out. What do you think is going to win Best Picture next week?
Well, it's not my pick, but I'm feeling like it's going to be Belfast, which I haven't seen, or Power of the Dog, which would not be mine. But I am going to say right now Power of the Dog. Okay.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see Power of the Dog winning. But I would probably say, Power of the Dog too. I think that's probably gonna be my pick. But what I think should win, Licorice Pizza should win, or Belfast should win. Obviously, those are my top.
You think Licorice? Well, it's your number one.
Yeah.
So
I think it should win. I thought it was brilliant. But again, I think the Oscar pick is Power of the Dog. It has the scope of being like a Western. But they are. I mean, it's like I don't know. Yeah, it was okay. I think it dragged too much. Like that's my biggest problem. I just don't think it's the best movie of the year. But I think in terms of like what the Oscars usually pick, I think it's probably going to be my pick too.
I agree with you 100%. The more I think about it, the more I appreciate the journey. But it took a long time.
Yeah, it's got great acting, but yeah,
it took a long time to get there. Yeah, so.
Well, thank you so much for this, The Arena Guy.
Of course.
Thanks for coming. Let me into your beautiful home. And
it's always great to have you here. I look forward to next time.
Yeah.
For sure. And what I'm going to do this next year is keep track of my movies as I see them.
Yeah,
over the next 12
that's what
months,
I've been doing.
Instead of trying to remember everything in the last month or two.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Like I try to see stuff ahead of time, but then like I get caught in like those weird things where it's like, you get caught up in other stuff and then you're just like, oh, I forgot I got to watch these movies. And the next thing you know, it's February. So it's well, thanks for doing this. And anything you want to plug or share, obviously?
Not really, but hey, if you want some fun stuff behind the scenes at the concerts here in Columbus, the Schottenstein Center and Nationwide Arena, follow the Arena Guy, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and got the Arena Guy podcast as well, which you used to be the big producer on. Yep. So miss you there for sure, and this was fun today.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, and this has been great. All right, and let the beat drop.